Welcome to this lesson on active transport. Active transport is a fundamental process that allows cells to move molecules across their membranes using energy. Unlike passive transport, which relies on natural diffusion, active transport requires the cell to expend energy to accomplish its goals. This energy-requiring movement is essential for maintaining the proper balance of substances inside and outside the cell. Throughout this lesson, we'll explore what active transport is, why cells need it, and how it works at the molecular level. Active transport is the movement of molecules against their concentration gradient. This means molecules are moved from an area where they are less concentrated to an area where they are more concentrated. Think of it like pushing a ball uphill rather than letting it roll downhill naturally. Because this movement goes against the natural tendency of molecules to spread out evenly, it requires energy input. Specifically, active transport uses a molecule called a TP, or adenosine triphosphate, which is the cell's primary energy currency. When a TP is broken down, it releases the energy needed to power this uphill transport of molecules. To understand active transport better, let's compare it with passive transport. Passive transport is like water flowing downhill. It requires no energy because molecules naturally move from areas of high concentration to low concentration. This movement happens spontaneously, driven by the concentration gradient. Active transport, on the other hand, is the opposite. It requires a TP energy because it moves molecules against their concentration gradient, from low to high concentration. It's like pumping water uphill. While passive transport allows substances to flow naturally across the membrane, active transport gives cells control over their internal environment by moving specific molecules where they're needed, regardless of concentration differences. Cells rely on active transport for several critical functions. First, it helps maintain ion concentrations necessary for nerve signals. Neurons, or nerve cells, need specific concentrations of sodium and potassium ions inside and outside the cell to generate electrical signals. Second, active transport allows cells to absorb nutrients even when those nutrients are more concentrated inside the cell than outside. For example, cells lining your intestines use active transport to absorb glucose and amino acids from digested food. Third, active transport helps remove waste products from cells. Sometimes waste materials need to be pumped out even when they're already more concentrated outside the cell. Without active transport, cells couldn't maintain the precise internal conditions they need to survive. The mechanism of active transport involves specialized proteins embedded in the cell membrane called carrier proteins or transport proteins. Here's how the process works. First, a carrier protein binds to the specific molecules that need to be transported across the membrane. Next, energy from a TP is used to change the shape of the carrier protein. This conformational change is crucial because it allows the protein to move the bound molecules from one side of the membrane to the other. Finally, the molecule is released on the opposite side of the membrane, having been moved from an area of low concentration to high concentration. After releasing the molecule, the carrier protein returns to its original shape and can repeat the process. The sodium-potassium pump is one of the most important examples of primary active transport. This protein pump is found in the membrane of most animal cells and plays a vital role in maintaining cell function. Here's what it does. The pump moves 3 sodium ions out of the cell and 2 potassium ions into the cell during each cycle. Both of these movements are against their respective concentration gradients. To power this transport, the pump uses 1 ATP molecule per cycle. The sodium-potassium pump is essential for nerve function, muscle contraction, and maintaining proper cell volume. Without it, nerve signals couldn't travel through your body, and your muscles couldn't contract properly. Active transport can be divided into 2 main types, primary and secondary. Primary active transport directly uses a TP as its energy source to move molecules across the membrane. The sodium-potassium pump we just discussed is a perfect example of primary active transport. Secondary active transport, also called cotransport, works differently. It doesn't directly use a TP instead, it uses the concentration gradient created by primary active transport to move other molecules. For example, the sodium-potassium pump creates a gradient of sodium ions. Secondary active transport can then use the energy stored in the sodium gradient to move other substances, like glucose or amino acids, into the cell. Both types work together to maintain cellular function. Let's review the key concepts about active transport. First, active transport moves molecules against their concentration gradient from areas of low concentration to high concentration. Second, this process requires energy from a TP hydrolysis, which is the breakdown of a TP molecules. Third, active transport is essential for maintaining cellular homeostasis, the stable internal environment cells need to function properly. Finally, active transport enables cells to control their internal environment by selectively moving molecules where they're needed, regardless of concentration differences. Understanding active transport helps us appreciate how cells maintain the precise conditions necessary for life, from generating nerve impulses to absorbing nutrients and eliminating waste.
If you like this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Visit CodeLucky.com for more such useful content.